groups or voluntary groups, they are still there, but they are being coordinated by one central body, which is the Leeds initiative, and that's where the Leeds vision comes in, and that's what's important, is giving people this identity of Leeds rather than a local identity of Gibson or Beeston. We want people to have the identity
sort of
of
Leeds.
Yeah.
Done a number of different things in different parts of Leeds, but our main one for it is as a music project, where we go into a particular neighbourhood or area of Leeds, and it started off with just collaborations of different musicians when we did early projects, and as a way of discovering a music scene where people were actually telling us that there wasn't one in different parts of Leeds. But the next stage might be to get those links going across Leeds a little bit more and join up those dots.
Whereas before they would hold an event and that would be that, they're now holding 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 events to try and actually involve the local communities, ensuring those local communities have ownership, and I think that has increased, and I think that people in Leeds, specifically around Holbeck, Gibson, Beeston, the areas that are being hugely regenerated, are beginning to actually realise that they can benefit, and that's a lot of where the community groups and the people that actually talk to the individuals on the ground come in.
Well, we run a grant scheme, and so we handle the arts grants for Leeds, so we've got relationships with the existing organisations there, and we try to get new organisations involved with that scheme year on year. And we do quite a bit of work with the outreach teams from the big arts organisations as well, and try to kickstart them working together, and new projects have come out of that approach.
Yeah, it is interesting. The government is trying to move towards more of an American model where the voluntary sector does a lot of stuff the welfare state used to do, and they are encouraging the voluntary sector to bid for contracts to do the local council stuff, because they get better value for money, because a lot of people are doing it voluntarily.
You know, we've got over 300 community and voluntary sector organisations that are delivering like really mainstream services, you know, like keeping people above the water. And it's not the statutory sector that's doing that, it's the voluntary and community sector.
I'm not against that idea per se, because I think on the whole the state is not particularly good at delivering services that people need, but neither is the private sector. Give a certain amount of services, you give a certain amount of your time and your energy and your effort to society, and what you get in return of that is a certain amount of goods and services. There's an exchange, and the important thing is whether that exchange is just and is balanced in some way. And there are people who get paid an absolute fortune of taxpayers' money or not, and give not so much, or do a job which is kind of useless or even completely destructive. There's the idea of the Let's local exchange trading system. The government ruled that those kind of credits would be taken off your benefits and would count against you if you were signing on. So that kind of thing is discouraged.
If I was working in a bank or a call centre 9 till 5 and then had to still go home and do everything that I need to do at home, I would find it kind of hard to fit in the expression that I need to fit into my life.
There's the idea of plugging the leaks, that most communities are quite poor, a lot of money can go into them, that money tends to go out. Trying to keep that money within the community and make sure that if you do buy, you're buying from a local shop, that if the skills people are using, the time they're spending, the money they're spending stays within that community, because a lot of places, it's historically been shown, you can pour money into them And then if there's not the infrastructure and the skills there that people have, it just disappears. It just drains out.
What we're finding is that a lot of those employment providers in the cultural sector in Leeds that we would like local people to be aspiring to work for are not finding that local people are coming through with the right kind of skills to work in their organisations, and so they're tending to recruit from out of town. And it's not just about people being, artists or performers, or maybe the cutting edge of creativity, but about people having the skills to come through into the backstage work and be the carpenters and the set builders and the lighting designers and so on. That's what we're lacking a bit at the moment, and it would be nice to get something in place over the next couple of years that bridges that.
But our primary objective is to work with those furthest from the labour market and with those deprived communities mainly surrounding the city centre.
Most people want to do something they find interesting, they want to be good at it, and they want to be appreciated for being good at it. And that's what most people want.
And it's not just the ownership of the development and the physical ownership of the houses, it's actually the ownership of, we can influence this, we, as a community, we can actually make a decision and we can say, well, no, and we can ask the questions and the questions get answered, which is what Construction Leeds and what the regeneration organisations try and do, engaging, encouraging, and that's where the outreach workers, the one-to-one community support workers really come in, by just holding people's hands and simple things like taking them on a bus and showing them how easy it is to get into the city centre. I mean, speaking to people in Gipton, some people hadn't left Gipton for 15 years.
If you take a more strategic, integrated approach to the interventions, you get a better outcome. And the difficulty with local authorities is they want big spanking buildings and angels of the north, and I want them too, but I also want, and the way I began to think of it is, if you've got cranes in the sky, you also want cranes on the ground, and you bring the two things together, and that's how you make it work. And in Britain, people are getting that, local authorities are getting that all over the place. So there's something endemic in the way that things are here, which creates more fertile conditions for engagement, because people already are engaging.
And sometimes the greatest creativity comes when people perceive the world to be against them.
If you have come to life with a can't-do attitude and I haven't got, and then something you experience makes you think, hang on a minute, maybe I can. And, oh God, I didn't realise I had that. So what you get is a shift in perspective, and we all know that things don't change until we do. And actually the first action anyone can change to change their futures is to shift something within themselves. And there's something really, really magical about when that happens.
And it feels as though kind of there's confidence coming back into Bradford, because it felt as though it was really at rock bottom, and that actually people are starting to see things happen here as well. So the fact that there was a master plan that came about, and I'm sure a lot of people locally think, oh, it's all a lot of hot air and it's just drawings, and will it actually happen?
But there's a lot more of a positive atmosphere back in Bradford, and it really makes me feel proud again to actually come from here.